Tauros is great. But why is it great? It's because it's better than other normal types. Now, why is that? Well, if you've been playing in any leagues recently that have been using no-cut moves, or if you've just been playing ladder, you know that a lot of normal types have been quite heavily affected by no return. For mons like Dagesby, Beware, Bouffalante, uh, Miltank, and especially some of the lower stuff like Kangaskhan and Lopunny and Stoutland, no return is a huge nerf to them. And even to some other mons that just liked running return, like, I imagine something like Cinderace this gen might appreciate running return, as if it is using Libero, it would be pretty strong. But the cut of return actually hurt a lot of normal types, but it made Tauros better. Now why is that? Sheer Force is a great ability. It gives you, well, essentially a Life Orb boost, but you don't get a passive effect of a move. It's why Nidoking goes from being what is essentially a pretty outdated mon, it looks like, to being this incredibly powerful wall breaker in UU in Gen 7. Because it's able to run stuff like Flamethrower, get a 1.3 times boost, it's able to run Thunderbolt, it's able to run Sludge Wave, it's able to run Earth Power, it's so much stuff. There's so many moves that get affected by Sheer Force. And the fact that, you know, their special moves not affected by Intimidate means you take less damage from Foul Play. You know, there's a lot of things involved. But it means that a special attacking Sheer Force user like Nidoking just goes off with a Life Orb. Looking at different mons, you know, this gen we have nothing. Just actually nothing. But then, in last gen, we have, Landorus. Landorus I is Ubers. And it's Ubers because Sheer Force Life Orb is that strong. You know, I mean, some people might think Landorus T looks like a better mon on paper. Because looking at Sand Force Lando I, it's worse. It's just actually worse. It's less bulky because of Intimidate. It hits less hard physically. And I mean, sure it's faster and has better special attack. But with just Sand Force, you're probably wanting to run like Edge Quake sort of set. So Sand Force, pretty bad, but Sheer Force. Now that's when you slap a Life Orb on this. Say Earthquake sucks. I want Earth Power. And then all of a sudden you have a plethora of great moves that work alongside Sheer Force, and it just means that Lando can just absolutely demolish almost any wall in OU. Obviously, Ubers is different. You know, even with this much power, you're probably not going to be able to kill something like an Arceus form. But it just hits very hard, just because of Sheer Force. Now, what am I putting Life Orb with Sheer Force? What happens there? Is it just you want to have the choice but power? No, it's very weird. See, Life Orb's effect is holders' attacks do the same, like the 1.3 times, but you lose a tenth of your HP. Now, for some reason, Sheer Force sees this effect, and sees this as a secondary effect. It says losing 1/10 of your HP is a secondary effect, and it cancels it. Which is... It's really odd. It's very odd. I don't know why it works. I don't think many people know why it works. It doesn't actually give you an attack boost for having... it gives you the Life Orb boost. It doesn't give you an extra Sheer Force boost. But it does get rid of the Life Orb damage. Which means you can run a Life Orb on any of these mons and just have 1.3 times special attack for nothing. It's nuts. And then alongside that, you can have Sheer Force activate on your moves normally, which gets you a 1.69 times boost to your moves, and it just makes stuff like Flamethrower all of a sudden doing more than a Blast Burn would. It's nuts. And you can just swap on the fly. So how does this affect Tauros? Well, Tauros is one of a few... well, not few. There's definitely a lot of physical Sheer Force users, but a lot of the time they actually don't really get to use it. I think Sheer Force Coverage is great, uses it decently, but could be better. You're probably running Ruskin or Mold Breaker over time or Drud, and there's just a lot of these mons that have better, well not better, different abilities that suit them better. And I guess Tauros could be seen as the same. There's definitely contention between its three abilities. I think Intimidate's always gonna be great, has respectable physical bulk, and alongside Intimidate, it could definitely function well as part of an Intimidate core on your team, alongside probably a good fighting resist. I mean, Landorus is definitely the main example. Looking at other Intimidators, you have something like possibly Gyarados. There's other stuff, but if you want a double Intimidate and you want to have Tauros there, you probably want Landorus. Because there's nothing else that really does it for it. But Intimidate isn't its only thing. It has Anger Point, which is, I'll say it, it's niche. You're not going to use it much. There are leagues, however, that think allowing Urshifu's signature moves is a good thing, which I disagree with entirely. But it means that because they always crit, Tauros has good enough bulk to live a signature move from both of these mons, and then it gets to +6. And it's faster than both of these mons. And it's faster than a lot of Galar decks. You go to speed here. 110, pretty popular speed tier. But after 110 you get to Scolipede, and there really isn't much else. And there's really not much else viable speed that every team's gonna have. Because, let's be honest, you're probably not running Ninjask. A Zeraora Dragapult is gonna be hugely valuable. A Celdor is definitely a maybe for some teams. Barraskewda is pretty much relegated to Rain, even though I think Flip Turn makes it a solid Tier 3 pick if you're having it in Tier 3 in Galar, and possible Tier 2 pick. Jolteon is definitely something a lot of people like to slap on teams. Talonflame definitely works, but I think as a fire type there are better options. Weavile's always great, but if it's at Tier 1 it's kind of hard to get sometimes. Rabombi's quite highly contentious. Noivern's very popular, and just going down this list, until you reach 110, there's either they're good and very popular, something like Cinderace or Lucha, or they're Persian. Not even a Alolan Persian, normal Persian, because Alolan Persian is very good. That's my boy. He has that fur coat, he has that Technician, he has that Assist that got cut. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, 110 in Galar is great. So alongside Anger Point, you can just get a sweep going immediately. But this is very specific to if you want to run a team on ladder based around this gimmick, or if you're just in a draft match and you know that they're going to bring that mon. But it still works. Though its best ability for me is definitely Sheer Force. I mean, as I said, Life Orb Sheer Force, it has a good enough physical move pool to abuse the fact that it has Life Orb Sheer Force. And especially with the new moves it got, it's really good. So looking at, so I said before, Return and Frustration were big moves for a lot of normal types. Sheer Force Body Slam did more than Return did, and Tauros always ran it. Which is kind of funny, because in Gen 1, Body Slam was the best normal type move, and Tauros was the best normal type. So it's actually, it's kind of, yeah, it's funny that the best normal type from the best, had the best move in that specific gen, and still use it to this day. But it means that the dex cut of Return doesn't hurt Tauros at all. It means that it can keep on running Body Slam, and it means that it just hits harder than an awful lot of these lower tier normal types. Look at all of these mons in PU. None of them really, they don't hit that hard. The first hard hitter in terms of normal types is Noctowl thanks to Nasty Plot. And then you have Linoon Tauros, who both have different gimmicks. Well, I mean, Linoon has a gimmick, it's called killing things really quickly, really powerful. But Tauros doesn't really have a gimmick, it's a very honest mon. It just hits stuff, and it kills stuff, and if it doesn't kill stuff, then that's too bad. It really doesn't have any sort of utility, but it doesn't need utility. It doesn't really want to have utility. Because I think Tauros is at its best when you can just click a max attack adamant, be faster than enough stuff, and just go. Just click buttons, have Body Slam, have Earthquake, have the new move CC, and then just any other coverage move. Because this is a Gen 1 mon, it gets way too much coverage. And it got a bunch of new moves as well. It got Lash Out, which is, albeit a little bit of a gimmick again, but I think definitely against stuff like maybe Landorus that you might expect coming in, like, potentially you're in against a Toxapex, they have a Landorus, and you think they're going to go Landorus on either Earthquake or Wild Charge, then you can click Lash Out and do a bunch of damage. It doesn't get Sheer Force boosted, and that means it's very weak otherwise. But I'm pretty sure Sheer Force also doesn't affect Throat Chop either, which is its other dark move. So running Lash Out actually doesn't hurt it at all. It gets CC, which is huge, because beforehand its fighting stab was... well, not stab. Its fighting move was Rock Smash, yeah, it was Rock Smash. Because Revenge, Reversal, and CC are all new. I think Revenge is pretty meh, because you want to be fast and stuff. Its Physical Bolt's nice, and its Special Bolt is decent, but you don't want to be taking hits on Tauros, you want to be dealing them. Assurance is a similar thing compared to its other new dark moves. CC, obviously, its best option. Throat Chop, probably its best option for dark, most consistent. You have High Horsepower now, which is obviously useful for the popularity of grassy terrain, now that Rillaboom's kind of nuts with Grassy Glide, just having terrain boost, just being a good Pokemon. Mega Horn is really good for it. It didn't really struggle too much with grass types, but it definitely, because of the fact that beforehand it actually ran Fire Blast, because like Sheer Force Life Orb Fire Blast still did a lot of a 40 special attack, if you would believe it. But now that it actually has access to Mega Horn, it means it can just not have to run special moves anymore, which I think is a big development in how you use Tauros. Because in previous gens, like after 2 or 3, you would have to run a special move, this sort of mix set, just to try to get the most out of Tauros, which meant that its strengths that it had were like dampened because of the fact that you were trying to get that other aspect of it to work. So now that it can just run a full physical moveset, I think it's much better, both in draft, on ladder, in leads without return. It's honestly one of the best normal types. I mean, the only other normal type that really does similar things is Obstagoon with Facade. Thank you. Thank you, Showdown. Alright, I'm very glad it didn't save my team. But yeah, like, the only other normal mons that can actually do it are just mons that have other gimmicks. Like, Obstagoon uses Facade, Diggisby has 500 attack, Exploud screams, like, these are special attackers. Snorlax has always used Body Slam because it likes to paralyze stuff. You know, there's just, all of these normal types just do it different. And like, stuff like Beware just is a lot worse off now that it has to run Double Edge instead of Return. Which, I'll be honest, I mean, Beware probably did run Double Edge beforehand, because it has a lot of HP, it can dish out hits and take them. But there are definitely mons you wouldn't want to always run Double Edge on. And having the option of Return always just made it super consistent as a normal type physical attacker. Like, something like Braviary has to run both Brave Bird and Double Edge. It doesn't even get Double Edge, huh? Let's run Crush Claw. Bravery is a bad example anyway. It uses sheer force itself in its own way. So what is Tauros like? It has so many moves. It has so many good physical moves. It got all those new moves, all of which help it. What is the set you're gonna run? I think unless you're needing Intimidate, you should always run Life Orb Sheer Force. You always need Body Slam as a very strong stab option. I think you always need Earthquake for steals and rocks. I think Wild Charge is also pretty essential for steals off the ground like Skarmory and Celesteela in Nat Dex drafts. And then from there, I think CC is just your best option. I think what Tauros wants to do is just click Body Slam. Like, that's just it. Like, let me get a calc up right now. 85 times 1.69. And then times 1.5 from stab. You know, that's over a 200 base power move. Off of 100 attack. And it has no downside. You know, it's nuts. That's all you want from Tauros. You want to be able to get in, keep on clicking Body Slam, and you're able to have that coverage to do it. Now that you get CC, you get high horsepower, you get Mega Horn for grass types. You know, there's so much stuff Tauros can do now that I think it's a genuinely great option if leads up only in Tier 5. And I think I would probably consider it a Tier 4 if I was going to want to need something like it. I think compared to other Tier 4 normals, like possibly Kangaskhan, I prefer Tauros. I think Tauros is just straight up better. I think Kangaskhan definitely has, you know, the support aspect, has Wish, it has Fake Out technically, has Roar, stuff like that. But I do just think just killing stuff is a really valuable trait that Tauros has. Because it just goes in, and that's all it does. Setup-wise, it doesn't really have anything. It has Workup, it has Curse. But I don't think it needs to set up, just because of how strong it just is at clicking buttons. You know, it has cool options. It can be your Sun, Rain, or Sand setter if it needs to be. It has access to Mimic and Roleplay, two very interesting moves. It has access to Endure if you want to run some sort of, like, Salac set. Especially against possibly one of your Shifus, you can run a more offensive spread, and then run Endure Salac with Anger Point. But aside from that, you know, there's definitely moves that you want to use, you know. Make sure whenever you're using moves, just check on the Sheer Force page on Bulbapedia about actually using those moves. Because, you know, Wild Charge doesn't actually get the boost. Neither does CC. But the typing for those moves is just essential. But, you know, Body Slam gets it, Rock Slide gets it, Earthquake and High Horsepower don't. Iron Head gets it, which is great if you want to just start killing fairies. Its special moves obviously do, Zen Headbutt does. You know, there's moves here that it does abuse its sheer force. But even without it, it's using Life Orb without taking damage. And Tauros can usually take one hit. On both sides, I think, you know, 291 HP, decent. You know, these defensive stats are not bad. It can definitely take a hit, and not having to worry about Life Orb chip is very nice. You know, it's similar to, you know, Dragapult's running heavy-duty boots. You know, just losing that little bit of chip has a huge effect on longevity for a Mon. And I think Tauros is definitely a great example of it. I mean, that's just it. Tauros, great. Longevity is great. Power, great. Speed, great for Gala. Good in Nat Dex. You know, it fits its niche well. It's a great offensive normal type. And if that's what you need, Tauros is probably your best bet. Especially if you need a physical normal type and you don't want to use Digitsby. Because nobody wants to use Digitsby.